There's a lot of times where I look at a game and assume it'll merely refine its formula, but keep its core ideals intact. In fact, this was the original intent of the Play Pay Pass system, to point out core features that likely would not change with updates. But MMOs at some juncture have reached the point where completely gutting and changing the core experience is okay, as long as you annoyingly keep your beta tag attached, no matter how long it's been out, or how much you're charging for that content. This next title is something that made my previous side quest on it now completely irrelevant, because it is a totally different beast. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time to look at Paladins. Paladins, you've changed. When I say my side quest is irrelevant now, I mean it. The only similar thing that remained is the fact that it's an arena shooter. Paladins is an arena shooter by Hi-Rez, makers of Global Agenda, Tribes Ascend, and Smite. All fun games in their own right, but Hi-Rez has quite the reputation for abandoning previous titles after a new one comes along. Though Smite is holding a pretty prestigious position in the MOBAverse. Alright, as for Paladins, this game was announced onto the scene a bit before the Overwatch hype train hit full steam, but, like Battleborn before it, was being unfairly lumped in as a one-for-one copy. The closed beta of Paladins offered up interesting, if not polarizing, gameplay dynamics, like a random chance card-based level-up system, multiple spawning capture points, and a cool siege mode where a tank would travel to a fortified wall and your team would work on protecting the tank, damaging the gate, and working to blow open a vault to victory. However, attempts to balance out these gameplay features were chaotic and completely unstable, so instead, the game scrapped a lot of these original ideas to bring us, well, it's an Overwatch clone. I know I just hashtag triggered a bunch of fanboys with that, but it is. I know saying it is going to piss people off because people can be unreasonable, and I've heard all the defenses to that before. Paladins came first! Check out the side quest video, especially if you didn't play back in closed beta. But these changes are far too numerous and suspect to be entirely their original idea do not steal. These ideas were also in Team Fortress 2. Yeah, except for multiple skills and an ultimate, flashy characters that can't have their playstyle customized, loot crates, and a post-match highlight that showcases a certain player in the match. The reason you're sick of everybody saying Paladins is an Overwatch clone is because it's true. Still, this could be considered an improvement, even over the game it's taking influence from. So stay tuned and hear just how this all changed, and you can decide for yourself if it was for the better. Paladins is a rather simple beast when it comes to the visual department. You won't find any graphics that'll blow you away with quality, but the entire world has an exceptional aesthetic design that makes everything look like it belongs. When you have your standard soldiers firing assault rifles, whilst fighting an anthropomorphic living bomb humanoid, that still look like they belong in the same universe, you know you got your particular art style down. In that regard, the game goes for a slightly cel-shaded look with very vibrant color palettes, which really does help distinguish each character from one another, even when some characters start to look a little similar. While it won't be winning any awards for being a graphical powerhouse, Paladin does look good, and this sort of style lends itself way more to the longevity of a title, and makes running the game a simple affair for those with lower-end machines. A few in Grindstone noted that while Overwatch would tank their PC, Paladins ran with no issue. We can't say the same praise for the UI, however, as it's by all accounts kind of a hot mess. The main menu you'll be navigating looks like a web page and unfortunately has about the same level of functionality, oftentimes not allowing you to do things that would seem logical, like purchasing skins for champions from the champion menu, and instead requiring you to navigate into the store in what feels like a really slapped-together interface. This game has music, right? Well, of course it does, but you'd be so hard-pressed to recall any of the actual musical content within the game that saying no would be understandable. Most of the time you're so focused on the sounds of combat, or updates on the objectives, that we aren't really sure if music is actually playing during the matches. Of course, what there is a very familiar orchestration of bombast, you know, like typing epic into a royalty-free soundtrack site. It's all good work, but there's lots of horns and drums, and it helps drive the action, but it does get very heavily drowned out by the sound, so it's something best to listen to outside of the game. I kinda miss that goofy, out-of-place rock track that used to play in siege mode when the tank would spawn. Maybe it's still in the game somewhere, I don't know. Sound design is kinda hit and miss though, with great work being put into weapon effects, ensuring you're reasonably informed as to where you're being shot from and by what. While I don't have too many problems with the voice work, a major downside to the voice acting is these screams done during ultimates, and are all given this rather goofy echo effect. It's like if you recorded someone at the end of a tunnel and asked them to scream out some random nonsense to signify a powerful move. It just feels awkward at best. Paladins, like many arena shooters, is a very simple-to-play game, with an easy-to-access skill floor allowing pretty much everyone to jump in, while the best players will find a lot of depth to the game's playstyle. Not to harp on this point as much as to drill it into truth, but Paladins opted to become a clone of Overwatch now, rather than being its own unique game. We again need to stress that being a clone does not automatically make a game bad. This stands in rather stark contrast to the developer's own comments that swear that they aren't trying to be a clone while they remove everything that made the game unique, and instead shoehorn in more features that edge it closer and closer to being a remake. Anyone that has been in Grindstone for a while knows that the old card system, which required you to augment abilities with randomly chosen cards upon level up, especially cheesed off Ryder Dresker. While I didn't think it was the worst system ever, I could see where he was coming from, especially for a title that wanted to be competitive. The card system introducing random chance into a competitive shooter based your entire match on whether or not you drew the correct card upon leveling up, and it was soul-crushing when you ended up with nothing but tweaks to your movement abilities. The tank siege mode was also really hard to balance. The tank went from being too hard to kill, to too easy to kill, to being invincible until it reached the gate, and not a single version of that felt fun as soon as the meta was discovered. Tweaking the shooter's formula was necessary. The game itself is a fairly standard arena shooter with 2 game modes. The choice of which one you want to play will come down to one question. Do you want to push the bomb now, or later? And seriously, that's basically it, as the only 2 playstyles in the game consist of a single mode, that of Team Fortress 2's Payload. The only difference being that one starts off with a team having to push a bomb, and the other starts off with a team needing to capture a point to then spawn a bomb to push. Such a core gameplay change may seem rather odd, but it fits in better with the current reimagining of the characters. As an example, the card system was removed as a random element, and instead you're given a deck for each champion that can be customized like a passive skill tree. Each deck consists of 5 cards that can be selected from 20 different ones, though at first you'll only have access to 5 basic cards in the default deck, and you'll need to unlock the additional ones either through random drops from chests or with the gold you earn from matches. Once your 5 cards are chosen, you can spend additional points to increase the power of a card up to level 4. But keep in mind that you have a shared power pool, so you can't simply just level all 5 of them up to full. Instead, you need to pick and choose various power levels and buffs to fit your particular playstyle. If you find yourself not using a movement ability too much, you can instead swap the default card for something else, or take points from that card to place onto something you'd find more useful. This effectively removes the heavy reliance on RNG within the game, while still keeping a vague semblance to the old card system from that increasingly foreign beta we played for the side quest. Another card system compromise comes in the form of shop level-ups, where, like a MOBA, you can purchase small perks with earned match points. There's 4 categories: blue, yellow, green, and red, standing for defense, utility, healing, and offense. Once you choose an option from a category, you're stuck with it until the match resets, depending on your game mode. The community seems to have a serious hate hard-on for the offense option Aggression, as it's considered the least useful for team victory, and the popular choice for new players and glory hounds. It's also not uncommon to see new players leave the spawn area without picking up any upgrades, as it's oddly easy to forget about. Clone accusations come from the fact that more and more of what made Paladins unique seems to be being drained away. Cassie's been reworked so many times they even keep tweaking her character design. Some champions with what used to be original playstyles are getting even more dramatically overhauled, or having their skills reworked to more closely match an Overwatch counterpart. It's even become a running joke amongst Grindstone to call out fake names of each champion instead of using their actual game name. Watch out, McReaper is flanking! Focus down Spanish Reinhardt while he's still on the point! Take cover, not Soldier 76 is using his ultimate! Yeah, ultimates. Of course they added ultimate moves, which, like the title that shall not be named, will charge up while you play and get significantly faster charges the more you damage your support. Originally, these didn't exist. All skills were available to use barring a cooldown. Some characters, like Skye, had their bomb changed to be an ultimate, acting slightly more like D.Va's nuke, or Cassie's bird friend being worked into Widowmaker's enemy reveal. It's tough to say if the addition of ultimates have been a welcome change, as the community seems split. Others just feel like they're there to mildly annoy the other team instead of serving a game-changing purpose. A lot of the times I tend to forget I have them, and they don't all feel as vital and useful as they do in Overwatch. You can tell a lot of these used to be just normal attacks from the closed beta with some power upgrades. Lest we forget, a recent patch right before the recording added in the community-reviled Not Play the Game. In this feature, called Top Play, footage of whoever the algorithm says was best in the match is shown to everyone. At first, this feature was skippable. The developers have since looked at all the rage and criticism for this particular feature and have come to a conclusion that it needs to be removed. No, not the Top Play system, but your ability to actually skip watching the replay. Good job, Hi-Rez, you fixed it forever. The system even has the old problems that Blizzard would run into, where it would prioritize kills over actual damage or effects, so expect to see a lot of players taking sudden last shots on wounded enemies in these top plays. A very recent patch unnecessarily added sprays to the game now. The sprays are incredibly blocky chunks of the card artwork instead of character-based icons, which doesn't make them all that appealing to get. Amusingly, they will accurately display as if you had sprayed them out of a canister, and don't simply wrap around any object that you spray them on. Yeah, even the small touches can make for interesting Discord banter about game design. You can find additional sprays in the much-maligned Lucky Boxes, along with skins, voice packs, and emotes for each of the champions. Thankfully, you can't get duplicate items from the Colossal chests. If you've played an online shooter within the last few years, nothing here will really surprise you, save for the fact that enemy chatter seems non-existent, so everything can often feel quiet and focused. That said, you'll find the typical insta-lockers in matches who will quickly sweep up their champion of choice before anyone can take their favorite, as you can't pick multiple characters per match. But this seems like a small price to pay for the relative peace and ease that the game's community seems to give off. Oh sure, it's very easy to see when people are frustrated and mad. Some people will rage quit the moment they don't get their best champion, but we haven't experienced any toxic rage fests either. This could be due to playing in a solid group for most of it, so our exposure to public players was mostly limited to the enemy team. But from our experience with the times when we did have unknowns in the party, there wasn't much to be seen or heard. Those of you familiar with Smite, and, well, most of Hi-Rez's other properties, the VGS system makes a return in this game. While I'm pretty sure it's mostly used as an annoying spam fest in matches rather than quick communication, I didn't hear people abusing it too much in this game. Paladins seems a bit more twitchy than Smite or Tribes Ascend, to allow people the time to mess with it as much, but it remains a useful, if not abusable, tool for those looking for quick communication without voice chat, and you won't have to re-memorize a lot of the basic commands between Hi-Rez's games. Now here's something I don't say too often, but this game is actually far easier to play against other players. It's not because the players are inherently bad, though you'll find your fair share of that, but more because bots are outright cheating. They operate in two modes, painfully stupid and aim hacks. They'll freely switch between these modes in the same match. You may have a victor running into a wall for several seconds, only to win a match point, and then have that same victor in the next round mercilessly headshot your entire team from across the map. If there's any plus to Hi-Rez tacking on that play of the game style crap, it's that it highlights just how blatant these aim hacking bots are, with plays featuring them shooting above your head and through walls to score hits, as well as their pinpoint snap aiming on every target. I kinda miss the overly objective focused bots from closed beta, that would let you gun them down in the back without resistance as long as they were traveling to a point or a tank. But, unless you have a group of friends that you'll only form custom matches with, you will have to face the bots, as the game will lock you from ever entering any PvP mode until you hit player level 5. Even if you choose casual from the menu, you'll be queued into a bot match, and that goes if any player in your group has not reached player level 5 yet. Just keep that in mind. PvP matches in the game do tend to feel very tense at times, and we've lost some close matches and pulled some clutch victories. It's a fun time, but things still feel like they're in need of some serious tweaking. Well, this section will be keeping to a couple Hi-Rez traditions for good and for bad. To get the good out of the way, first you will find that the Founders Pack for $20 acts exactly like Hi-Rez's other title, Smite, in that it unlocks all current and future champions for one set price, instead of trying to buy them each individually. Keep in mind, while you can purchase champions with earned coins, this is certainly a convenient option if you feel like you'll be playing the game for a long time, and simply want to skip the grind and play all the latest additions right out of the gate. There are 2 additional packs on top of the base one, which will include added incentives like bonus gems, more chests, boosters, and even skins, but they'll run for $35 and $60 respectively. The bad comes in when it gets to actual cosmetics for those champions, as almost everything in this cash shop seems to be a simple reskin. Seriously looking through and you'll find maybe a handful of things that aren't just a quick color swap, yet they'll go for 50 to 250 gems apiece. and you'll have to buy heads, body, and weapons separately, not to mention other fun things like announcer packs and emotes. When gems start at $200 for $5, it really makes you take pause and honestly seem like it would be a far better investment to purchase the game's lucky boxes, which have exclusive skins and loot within them. Maybe that was the point. Said lucky boxes are the Radiant chest for 35 gems, the Colossal chest for 50, and at the time of recording and scripting, the Festive chest for 75 gems. From these you can get specialty skins, voice packs, emotes, and the cards mentioned back in gameplay, so this section really comes down to a rather mixed bag. There are some things like the Founders Pack, which have seen success in Smite, and can end up being an insanely good value, while the rest is questionable at best, or simply luck of the draw. I know I'm sticking my neck out here. Most of you probably already shut this off to write me angry comments. And it might seem like I'm harping too much on a common, death-beaten point, but Paladins being compared to Overwatch is gonna be inevitable. It's still a very fun, simple game with plenty of its own merit beyond just being free. But honestly, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, swims like a duck, then it's a goddamn duck. Whatever uniqueness Paladins had is seemingly being systematically removed to follow the current market trend, and while pedants will quickly leap out of every corner to scream some form of "well actually," it's clear that Hi-Rez is intentionally shifting towards mechanics from Overwatch. It doesn't mean the game is horrible, or that it's a ripoff. Some regular Overwatch players in Grindstone remarked that they actually prefer the playstyle of a Paladins character to a similar one from Overwatch. But only the staunchest fanboy defenders will unquestionably accept Hi-Rez's claims that they aren't trying to ape a lot of Blizzard's ideas. Paladins may have come first, but that initial concept is dead and buried. Long live Above Patrol. Here's my final rating. There's a few people unable to get into Overwatch for whatever reason, and Paladins is a very solid alternative, if Team Fortress 2 wasn't your thing. The flashy characters, ultimates, and cart-pushing madness is all here, and it plays in a perfectly legit manner that's simple fun to just hop in and out of. Of course, being able to tweak the characters, be it the card system's passives or the in-match upgrades, adds a layer of interest that slightly makes up for your inability to swap your characters on the fly. Of course, the game is far less taxing on PCs than Overwatch seems to be, and plenty who've had trouble getting Overwatch to simply work well enough should see if they can get this game working in its place. Another way to customize your character is the cosmetic outfits, which are interesting in the fact that you can choose the head, body, and weapon separately, but tend to be simple recolors and not too different from the main character's default options. But the more clever ones are definitely interesting, if not pricey. If you don't want to unlock characters individually, the Founders Pack, like the Ultimate God Pack in Smite, is your unquestionably best value, granting you access to every character released in the future, for far less than some other similar games. If you're already playing Overwatch, and you're really into Overwatch, you're probably going to see very little reason to play this. As Hi-Rez adopts more and more gameplay features from Blizzard's newest darling, there's less and less reason to make the switch. While some differences are distinct and interesting enough to be worth a look, it may not be enough for those dedicated players. And before you get too upset, I said the exact same thing regarding Team Fortress 2 players looking at Overwatch. However, the current lack of gameplay modes makes the game feel very samey. There's no point capture only mode, just chocolate and vanilla payload, and a few more modes added to the game, perhaps some completely unique to this title, could really help set it apart. Hi-Rez has plenty of infamy from longtime players, and balance isn't really their strong suit. They tend to oversteer a lot, and your useless character one day might become completely overpowered, or vice versa, by patch day. They left that beta tag on for a reason, so unless you're willing to ride out what's probably going to be a pretty chaotic development, I mean, hell, look at everything Smite's done over the years, I'd maybe wait until this becomes a bit more stable overall. While we don't have anything outright planned for next time, I'm sure we'll think of something now that the holiday season isn't sneezing into everyone's buffet. We'll just see how it goes. You're here again, sticking around to the end of the credits. You must like hearing me ramble. Left window take you to the rather ridiculousness that is winning putt. Yes, just watch it. I know it's golf, but seriously, just watch it. Right window will take you to Battle Right, which is kind of like a MOBA that gets rid of all that weird MOBA-ness we've grown accustomed to. So if you always wanted to play a MOBA-style game that's a little bit more no-items, Fox-only Final Destination, you should give Battle Right a shot, or at least check out the video. Of course, if you want more frequent and constant updates about what's going on, you can follow me on Twitter at ChaosD1, or if you're only looking for show updates, check out at MMO_Grinder. If you're looking for a little bit more perks or insight for the show itself, you can go check out some of the perks on Patreon that I offer up. It's also time for my annual tradition of heading to MagFest, a con that I am increasingly wondering why I still bother to attend, which is going on during January 5th through January 8th at National Harbor in Maryland, so if for whatever reason you happen to be there, you might see me wandering around. I don't know, not really doing too much this time. Now, this is normally what I'd be plugging Slipstream's show, but he's taking a break from Patreon for a bit. So instead, I'll be plugging myself. If you've been noticing, I've been uploading videos onto vid.me, or vidme, whatever you prefer to call it, mostly just MMO Grinder episodes, basically things that you'd probably find on this channel already, except none of the other weird superfluous crap that I've been putting. It's just MMO Grinder only. Doesn't mean I'm leaving YouTube, yet, but it does mean that I at least have somewhere to keep MMO Grinder videos, or I want to have more guests do their own stuff for MMO Grinder. They've got a site that won't have my name attached to it. Finally, if you're not too busy raging at me for saying Overwatch 1,500 times, I'll go ahead and put my referral link for Paladins down in the description, because I'm nothing if not shameless.